Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Velocity Kinetics. Apologise, it's been a long time since we've done one of these. There's been just a lot of things on both mine and Russ's plates recently. And I know from my side of the pond I've not been sleeping too well and not quite been feeling myself on off. So it sort of rapidly dropped off the to-do list. So we never got to do a season wrap-up for 2016. We never got to do a post-test season preview, and then subsequently we haven't done anything in the interim. So plan to rattle through quite a few of these things as quickly as I can. So 10N 2016, good season, not a vintage year, but it was always a good congratulations to Nico Rosberg, and not being a big Hamilton fan, it's good to see him beaten. But into the winter testing with the new cars, I'll be honest, I'd sort of kind of gotten used to how the cars had looked since 2009, but since they've gone back to this wider shape, I guess the only way I can put it is they look more like how Formula 1 cars should. I don't know why. It's one of those things that you think, yeah, but you've had since 2009 to get used to the wide front wings and the tall, narrow rear wings. Like, yeah, but doesn't mean it didn't look quite right to myself, and never properly got used to it. So we've got new rules, power regulations remain more or less the same, and we've got the usual rumour mill going around as well. So we've had an interesting start to the year. It's good to see Ferrari and Mercedes battling it out. I'm not the world's biggest fan of Vettel, and I'm not the world's biggest fan of Hamilton, but at least they're both working for the points. So it's like I can't take that away from them. In the occasions where they've just been able to scamper off into the distance, because that's what they've been able to do. It's like not really a lot you can complain about. Like for instance in Montreal, just gone, Hamilton had the faster car. He took advantage of clean air. So what was he meant to do? Sit around and keep trading for first and second with Bottas all day? He had to get cracking. So from that perspective, I can't complain too much. Bottas went to Mercedes over the winter, which for him it was a good move. He's already got a win and a pole under his belt, so take that as you will. It's sort of more than he'd accomplished at Williams. Then again, Williams was a midfield team. Honda is continuing to prove unique. Got Van Dorn in, Button out. We had Alonso go do IndyCar. There's so much to cover. So Ferrari, we'll sort of try and work through this as best as my scattered and exceptionally tired brain can. Ferrari, they've got a good-looking car. It seems good in all conditions at the moment. We have to say at the moment because past performance is no guarantee of future success. They could bring an update in that just completely undoes everything, or Mercedes could bring in an update that just unlocks everything on their car. Raikkonen does not seem to be having as much luck as Vettel. Raikkonen did get a decent and well-deserved pole position, which I can't fault him for, and I will admit I did wish he could have converted it into the win. Whether that was Ferrari strategy or his driving, we can't really comment because it's too early in the season for Ferrari to be backing Vettel on the one hand, but at the same time, if one driver's clearly getting on better with the car than the other, and it's got substantially more points, then it's sort of a case of, well, to guarantee us points, we're just going to back the guy who's in the lead at the moment. And if the other driver overhauls them, then fine. But I wouldn't be disappointed if Ferrari won this year. Not to take away what the guys in Brackley did with Mercedes, and not to undermine British workforce, British design, British engineering. I know it's German badge and everything, but everything is pretty much British on it. But I've not liked how easily the Mercedes have just gone, right, now the championship sort of thing. Like, well, you either I could have been fine with it. I'd have been fine with it if it was a closely fought championship, or if they had to sweat a little bit for it. It's like what I thought with the Red Bulls when they kept winning. It's like, fine, but you need to be challenged just a little bit, only a wee bit, in the words of someone's child I know, a friend of mine's child. Now on to Mercedes. Like I say, mentioned a few minutes ago, they picked up Bottas in the off season to replace Rosberg, retired. I agree with a lot of people. Rosberg never really, that I can remember, he never really produced an outstanding drive that made you go, wow, that is someone phenomenal. He's not done a Vettel with or a Hamilton or an Alonso. But at the same time, he kept scoring points. He kept it out the wall the most. He kept it out the back of the cars. He had slightly better luck on his side of the garage with engines after two miserable, I guess you could say 2 miserable years in that sense in comparison on reliability. So very well done. And to be honest, to me at the end of the season, he did look exhausted. So I think it just took everything out of him. And if he wanted to remain competitive, it was either that or his family. And like, I wouldn't know what call I'd have made. I'd like to think I'd have made the same call as him, but obviously don't know, unless someone is kind enough to sort of employ me as a Formula 1 driver and things. There's probably a better chance of me winning the Euro than that happening. Anyway, they brought Bottas in. Not sure what the dynamic is between him and Hamilton. The garage, at least on the outside, seems more settled than it did with Rosberg. Then again, this is only the first year of the partnership. Bottas could suddenly just hit the ground running for the rest of the season. Hamilton could turn petulant and not really do, and basically turn the environment into an unpleasant one. So who knows? The Mercedes car is not as easy to set up as it has been previously. It's not having it all its own way. I'm not a fan of their T-wing. I kind of like the T-wings and I kind of don't. I don't mind the shark fin. The T-wings a little much. But we'll see how their car develops. Certainly it's still it's going to be number 1 or number 2 most of the time. Red Bull, I think is the best way to put it. They're starting to postulate again about the engine situation that they've got. And it's a case of, well, if you're wanting to postulate, then why not go employ Cosworth to work for you and become a Cosworth works team, or try and get Ford or VW or Audi into the sport, or Lamborghini. Let's try and think of anyone else. You could even try and see if you can persuade BMW to come back in the back of the Red Bull. It's a case of stop complaining and do what you can. You're not the Renault Works team anymore because they now have obviously now back with their own team. So live with it. You've got arguably the best aerodynamicist probably ever designing your cars. So don't complain. Your cars are still. It's one of these things. They forget how competitive their cars actually are, given the slight disadvantage of the Renault engine. So if it's that much of a disadvantage, then why are your cars consistently qualifying somewhere between 3rd and 6th consistently? So, I can't tolerate their postulating. It reminds me too much of Tony Fernandez and Caterham in many ways. So you've got, for one, you're in some ways you're hurting Renault because you agreed to have it, but branded as Tag Heuer. So be thankful Renault decided to keep supplying with engines. They could have gone, no, we don't want customers who speak badly of us, like you have. You can piss off. So we'll see what happens the rest of the season. See if Red Bull and Renault split. On to Williams. They had an okay-ish year last year. This year, it's another one of Massa had to come back because Martini being a drink sponsor, they needed someone at least age 25 to be the main driver. So that's why Massa came back in, and he's obviously would have had some input into the FW40, and he'll know how the team works, etc. He's doing a solid job. Lance Stroll, I do agree. A lot of people seem to gang up on Stroll really quickly for no reason, and it bothers me more than it should. It's like, yeah, but if he couldn't drive, if he hadn't proved himself lower down, Williams wouldn't have taken him. Likewise, when they had Pastor Maldonado a few years ago, if he hadn't have been a good driver in the lower categories, they wouldn't have wanted him regardless of what money he brought. Because if he brought in loads of cash but kept stuffing it in the wall in the lower formula, it's like a case of, well, you bring in the cash for us to rebuild the car after every single one of your crashes, so all you're really doing is making it so we can afford to keep you in parts, basically. So we'll see how he goes. He did score his first 2 points in Montreal, and it was the first Canadian driver, as I understand it, since Villeneuve to first Canadian driver not named Villeneuve to score points. I think is what they said. So we'll see how he goes. The Williams car itself, I expected a better showing in Montreal. Although that said, given that the car got to 9th in the hands of Stroll, the car could have probably been 5th or 6th with Massa if he hadn't been crashed out the race. I hope the Williams team can bring some more parts and performance to the car. They've got Paddy Lowe now, who used to be at Mercedes, so hopefully they can build a better car. Obviously, you need money to build a better car, and we'll see just how that situation keeps going with Williams. Now, Force India, they had a solid end to the season last year. They're kind of getting really back into where Jordan used to be, sort of a solid midfield team, a solid team to repair your reputation, to build your reputation. The only thing is they're not close enough to taking a win. Although, with how punchy they were in Montreal, they might be poised. I think this is the best season yet in their history, aside from the 2009 Spa, and was it Imola or Monza? I can't remember which one it was, where they did exceptionally well on those 2 low downforce circuits. But since then, they haven't really been close to potentially going for a win. So I think this year is the best year in a while that Force India will have to win. Perez didn't get out of the way of Ocon in Montreal like he should have done, but the trade-off is Force India were not being that forceful. I think Ocon could have got his, or Ocon, however you pronounce his name, he could have gotten his first podium, even, sorry. He's done a solid job so far. I quite like what he's done. Perez, he seems to be attracting attention of the bigger teams, which for him is good, but I wonder whether he would be that easy to work with when he's in a bigger team. I don't know why. I sometimes think he's fine. I always get the impression he's okay to work with for a while, then eventually he'll become very hard to work with. I have no idea why I think that. I just seem to think that. Whereas like Ocon and Bottas, I think they'd be constantly easy to work with. Likewise, Massa and Jenson Button, I think they're all constantly easier to work with. But we'll see how the season pans out. See where Perez ends up next year. Maybe they'll get some more decent points. Haas. Now, I want to do a separate piece shortly comparing Haas to another team that entered the motorsport last year. Haas have... I'm not sure what to think, to be honest. I know Russ isn't too big on the Haas team, but I think it's something to do with Gene Haas and NASCAR as to why he's not too keen on him. And I think Gene Haas is... I think he said he's a convicted criminal, or is it tax dodgy? Certainly things are not as plain as they could be for him over in the States. They've got Magnussen in this year, having let go Gutierrez, which I don't know why they hired Gutierrez in the first place, because he's never shown, to me, he has never shown that spark like Perez did, like Maldonado did, like Bottas has. He never showed that spark as to why he reminds me of one of the Sauber drivers, which I'll get onto in a little bit. Their car, they've redone the livery, and their livery was always pretty solid in the first place, to be honest. Quite liked it when it was red, though not all black, grey and white, but as long as the car gets around the track and gets points, who really cares what it looks like? Could be bright pink, like the Force Indies are. And bright pink doesn't really matter if you score points, because Everyone's going to be noticing a team that's scoring points. They've had problems with their brakes. Whether they'll can get on top of that, I don't know. Grosjean, he's putting some very good performances, but he's going up and down people's attractive list, if that makes sense. Like, at one point last year, it wouldn't have been a great surprise if he got a phone call from Mercedes to say, you're in, or got a call from a bigger team to say, we want you. And arguably, he should have a win or two under his, should have had a win or two under his belt by now. But it's hard to say really where he stands. He could be better. He should find a way to make himself to not let himself get so frustrated as he does, and I think that doesn't help him. I think he needs to think of his children and his wife a little more. He seems to calm down when he talks about them. He sort of opens up and becomes just a genuinely nice guy. But as long as he doesn't stop being a nice guy, Magnussen's a good choice for him. I feel bad for Magnussen because a couple of years ago, and obviously when he joined McLaren, it was a K-Mag. And then after he got dropped, it did his reputation no favours. Even though I think he started for Alonso in the Honda 1 year. In 2 years, he started for McLaren in the Honda. No, he didn't. So 1 year was Magnussen, the other year was Van Dorn. But hopefully, this is when Magnussen can rebuild his reputation and get back into a top team. He got third place on his debut. Appreciate he was then promoted up to second after someone's disqualification. But he's got the talent, and whether that means he's on the move up to Ferrari from the Haas, or whether he'll be just kept an eye on by other teams and eventually find his way into a team like that, who knows? But please find yourself into a better team, please. Renault got Nico Hülkenberg. Good choice, I think. Hülkenberg, I feel bad for Hülkenberg because he's fallen into what I call the midfield trap, much like Perez has at the moment, where you do keep coming to the attention of the top teams, but because his checkbook isn't necessarily big enough, or because of rotten luck, he never quite gets the pull up to the big teams like he should have had. I personally think he probably should have been signed for Ferrari a while ago, or Mercedes. I'm surprised Mercedes didn't want to try and take him on after Rosberg left and have German, and so have a German in the team again. So we'll see how he does. He seems to be quite at home in the Renault. Arguably, yes, he might be scoring better points in the Force India, but he's a solid driver. He needs a decent team, and he's right. A factory team is just what he needs. Renault seem to have made a good step forwards over where they were last year. So really, only time will tell as to what. Oh, excuse me. Only time will tell as to what will happen for Hülkenberg. They've still got Jolyon Palmer. Now, he did do a decent turnaround towards the end of last year. Obviously, he was a rookie last year, so can't really pass too many comments and judgments on his first year, especially now as they've gone into a rule change, so he might as well be, in some aspects, he might as well be a rookie all over again. But that said, some of the instances he's found himself in, and some of the ways he's acted in the press conferences afterwards, I appreciate you're cross and annoyed with yourself for doing that, but you don't act like it. You're not putting out a very professional image for Renault, and I wonder whether you're actually as easy to work with as you seem to be on TV. So we'll see how he does. He goes the rest of the year. Renault actually recently tested Robert Kubica. He did 115 laps around the Valencia track in a V8 Renault. I think it was 2013 Renault, if I remember rightly. Obviously, one of the ones when it was a Lotus, basically. And he says he felt quite at home in the car. There have been lots of stories coming around that going around saying he would like to have a proper comeback. And if he does, that would be fantastic, especially with a team that was going to promise him so much when he signed for them. And with the good cars that Lotus Stroke Renault managed to produce, I mean, they produced a car good enough to tame and lure Raikkonen out of retirement, and for him to stay with them for a good couple of years. So imagine what Kubica could have done with one of them. Hopefully he's got enough mobility in his hand, although he might have to do it all one-handed, as in gears and everything. But if that's what he wants to do, that's how he wants to do it. Or if he's comfortable having to do it that way, then that's fine. It's no different for when Sauber made a hand-controlled car for Alessandro Zanardi. See if he would come back to race for them. So we'll see how it. We'll see what happens there. I would love to see Kubica back, even if it's just doing the occasional Friday practice. But it's only one thing. There's only, how do we put it? It's all very well him being fit enough to do one test and do that many laps, but having to do everything else associated with a Formula One season, could he do it? Is the question. On to Sauber. They've got Wehrlein after Manor folded, and they've still got Ericsson. Now, Ericsson is the driver I was alluding to earlier, where he's not, to me, shown that flash of "this is why I'm here" that a lot of other young drivers have shown. And the fact that in many aspects he's been outclassed by Wehrlein, even though Wehrlein missed first 2-3 races of the season, it's very telling just how do you put it? Not how little talent Ericsson has, but how easily he's outclassed. Because in many ways he was outclassed by Felipe Nasser last year. Although, to be honest, I never really rated Nasser. I'm not sure why I thought of him that much. But he's there because of his checkbook in many ways. So the Sauber's got last year's Ferrari engine in it. They didn't want to buy this year's one. They didn't try and get a Honda unit or anything like that. But that said, they are meant to be using Honda power next year. Now, this must mean that Honda are either giving them engines at a very discounted price, whether Honda are going to come back and do something similar to what BMW did with Sauber, and then become Honda Sauber or Sauber Honda, and pretty much be almost like a works team. We'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully Wehrlein can get some decent points in the rest of the season, although that Sauber is just not... It just doesn't seem as saucy as the other cars. We'll see how it goes. There's not a lot else we can do. But Ericsson, to me, he needs to up his game a little bit more. And then we come finally to McLaren. Oh dear God. What's happened again? Honda went away and redesigned the engine, rebuilt it, and it is almost as if they're back to the beginning of their partnership again. Don't get me wrong, Honda are brilliant engineers, because they wouldn't be in motorbikes, they wouldn't have been in Formula One as many times as they have been before, they wouldn't have been in power boats, they wouldn't be in touring cars. Given that they've won the Mach 3 races a couple of times, where in touring cars where they have 3 manufacturer cars and have to get around 2 laps and have the smallest time difference between the cars, and they've won a couple of races this year as well in World Touring Cars. Honda know what they're doing. But I think I mentioned this once before. There's a book called Rising Sun, where it's based in LA, but they're dealing with a Japanese corporation. And the Japanese corporation is slow, unhelpful, and very slow to react. And I think that's what the problem is. Again, I know that book I read, Rising Sun by Michael Crichton. It's back end of the 80s, early 90s, that book. But I don't think the culture has changed that much. And someone made the point on Sky F1 review, and I think it was with Natalie Pinkham. Honda were in Formula One for 9 years before they left last time, and they won 1 race with Jenson Button, and they were not and adding to their point, on the rare off days for Ferrari and Schumacher, Honda were not there to capitalise on that and give Jensen and Taku their best performances ever. They couldn't capitalise on any podiums or more podiums or wins. So it's unbelievable. Alonso managed to go and compete in Indy instead of racing in Monaco. Jensen came from Monaco, and it was good to see him back in a car, but knowing that he had to have yet more grid places penalised, a great grid penalty even, sorry, because of power unit changes and things, and it's just, I know, man, it concerns me. Now, there are a lot of rumours going around that Honda and McLaren are preparing for a divorce, if they're preparing to say, we'll go our separate ways. Whether they do or don't, I don't know. It could, sorry, the video keeps cutting out, I don't know why. Anyway, for the third time, we'll see how we go without that stupid error messages in. There's no microphone, but I'm sure when I watch this back, there will be a microphone on the video. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest, because a lot of people saying they'll go back to Mercedes. They may even consider being a Renault customer, McLaren Renault, and like, I don't know, because the whole thing is about Honda. We'll see what happens. I mean, they need to do what they can to keep Alonso, but I think if they didn't pay Alonso as much, there might be more room to help. Honda apparently turned down hiring a couple of Mercedes guys that Toto Wolff said we'll give you them to help them get their engine program up to speed. This is what annoys me with Honda. You're being offered the help to get up the grid, and you're turning the help away. You've shot yourself in the foot. You've basically gone, which foot do I like the least? Left one or the right one? I'll pick the right one. And then I'll do the left one as well, just because I've got 2 bullets in the gun. So, they can't swap the engine midway through the season because it's just going to take so much modification on the back of that McLaren, and there'll be so many new electronics and everything to be put in. Honda need to drastically improve. There's just no two ways around it. And it constantly seems that they are frequently down on power, and I don't understand why. Because in touring cars, they're not down on power as much. So, who knows? As for what happened to Manor, it's a shame that they went, because Formula One needs a Manor team, it needs a Minardi team, it needs that small team for the likes of Bianchi, the likes of Verline, the likes of Webber and Alonso to showcase their talent in underpowered, underdeveloped machinery to then warrant a drive up in the big leagues. Something that Lewis Hamilton has never had to do at all. So, whether a new team comes in and takes their place, I don't know. Whether Toyota will come back. Some people did, something I was reading the other day did suggest that they would be. Like, they again, in the time they were in Formula One, they didn't net a single victory. So, see how you would put that, and they're having better success in LMP1 anyway. Why would they? LMP1 and NASCAR, I think they're in. So why would they bother? So we'll see what happens. There's obviously rumours that keep doing the rounds that Audi will come in, Aston Martin will come in, whether that's as its own team or part of Red Bull or rebranding Red Bull. Who knows? Russ sent me something the other day that was an interesting read, that Ford have said that Formula One's just not on their to-do list, which I understand why, because they mostly make 3-cylinder engines, and the V6 hybrids are twice the cylinders of what they normally work with, and 1.6 versus the 1 litres that they tend to use. So, who knows? For the rest of the season, I hope it does remain as close as it has been. I'd like to see Williams get back up there. I wouldn't say no to either Force India taking a victory or even a cheeky second place. I just don't want one or the other to walk away with it. I just don't want one team to dominate the rest of the year. That would just be wrong and unfair. Well, wouldn't. it's wrong to call it wrong, because every year one team will get the rules right over everyone else. So of course there's always a chance that one team will just master those rules. But I think you get the point I'm trying to make. More a case of, I just don't want one team to have it too easy for the rest of the year. Even if they're fighting internally, I don't care about whether you're fighting internally. I'm worried about the external fight. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know when we'll be back to do another episode. I am experimenting with a couple of, maybe trying to do a video podcast with someone instead of, or as well as part of this. Hopefully, depending on when I can do it, might be doing a review of my car. But obviously, I need someone to do the filming for me. Not because my car is particularly fantastic. It's just something I'd like to try. I've got a Suzuki Baleno, which has got a booster jet engine in it, which is their take on Suzuki's take on Ford's EcoBoost. And if this is Generation 1, it is a very good Generation 1. That said, I don't know how long Suzuki have been developing said engine, and it's 111 brake horsepower, and that's the only engine that they do in the booster jet range at the moment in the 1 litre. They do other ones in 1.4, but I think 1.6 as well, if I remember rightly. But in the 1 litre 3-cylinder, you wouldn't. When I first was told about the 1 litre 3-cylinder thing, like my friend Mikey, he's got a Ford Focus with the 1 litre 3-cylinder. I thought, pull the other one. It's just not going to have any go. It's just not going to move at 30 miles an hour. Yeah, of course, because you don't need to be accelerating hard at 30 miles an hour. And he took me somewhere. I can't remember where we went in his Focus, and he's just got the 125 EcoBoost, and like, oh my god, you'd think that's a 2 litre under there. And with my one, it's one of these things, oh my god, you wouldn't think it's 1 litre 3 cylinders under there, you'd think it's 4 cylinders, and maybe as much as 2 litres under there, probably more like 1.6 to 1.8, but it's really good and it makes a lovely noise as it goes. I will try and do that comparison video at some point. Basically, it seems I want to compare, but that we'll be comparing, just so you know, we'll be comparing Haas to Volvo. Volvo Cyan Racing in World Touring Cars, and obviously Haas in Formula 1. They both joined motorsport at the same time. I appreciate Volvo have got a strong back history of touring cars, but Haas has got a strong back history of racing in the first place with NASCAR and things. In actual fact, the two organisations are pretty evenly matched to compare, but their differing fortunes in their relevant fields, it's very interesting to compare. But anyway, look after yourselves. Keep cool and stay safe in this heat. Don't do anything stupid, and we'll see you.
Velocity Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles now.